Hey, what's going on? Welcome to another week of the Financial Mirror. So this is actually the first time. So lucky for Kyle here. This is the first time that we're doing a live interview. This is strictly about a real life, actual experience that Kyle's gone through, his journey, how he's been with his finances, and hopefully you can take something away from this, so that you can end up controlling your finances in a way that is maybe out of the norm of what you're used to doing, but more in line with where you want to be, right? So welcome, Kyle. I appreciate you coming and doing this. And so me and Kyle, we obviously are co-workers as well. We've worked together for a couple years now.
You've suffered for 2 years.
Suffered, okay. I don't know. I think it's mutual.
Okay.
But it's a pleasure. I really am glad you're here. So. We're going to kick it off. We're going to dig into a little bit of Kyle's finances. I know that might sound weird, but we'll dig into it. I gave him the pre-talk of what to expect, and ultimately we're not going to get too personal, but we're going to get into some aspects that are hopefully learning points for everyone else. So real quick to start off, Kyle, if you don't mind, just tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I was born in Texas, and that's all you need to know. No, I'm kidding.
Roll Tide.
No. So I was born in Texas, and I grew up, went into the military a few years late. Did my 4 years, got my college. Lived in Japan for 13, 14, 15 years, somewhere around there. And then I got a job offer in Hawaii, and so then
Right on. And so that does lead me to, so you've got all this experience from military to schooling to moving around all across the world, actually. But how has that influenced how you've handled your finances?
Well, both positively and negatively. I would say positively, coming to Hawaii is when I really dialed in. When I was younger and, just out in the world, I really didn't give it too much thought. I knew it was in the background, it was on the back burner, but it wasn't until Hawaii that it really kind of kicked into gear.
So what did you do? How did you used to handle your finances?
Well, I've always been a firm believer in don't buy something you don't really need. Like my cell phone, for instance, it's 2 years old. Do I need a new one? No, it's still operational. If spend the extra money to buy a screen protector, but it still works, so why buy a new one? But when you do buy, you buy quality top line stuff. So yes, I'm a spender, but at the same time, I've always been kind of like, it still works, make it do.
So you're not a penny pincher per se, but you're not a let me go out and get the newest thing type of person.
Before Hawaii, yes, definitely. That was definitely before. Since moving to Hawaii, I've turned more into a frugal person.
There we go.
So
I'm sure we're going
penny pincher does not have a good ring, but frugal sounds classy.
Hey, we'll stick to the classiness thing. Keep it classy, San Diego. What was that from?
Oh, Ron Burgundy.
That's Ron Burgundy. That's Anchorman. Here we go. So, come on, man. So, I do have to ask, because I talk so much among. If you go back and listen to any of the podcasts, any of the streams, I talk a lot about budgeting. So I have to ask you: have you ever, or do you now even set a formal budget every single month? I am going to judge you, by the way.
No, that's fine.
No, I'm actually
beforehand, no. I've always kept my fingers to the pulse of my financials, but I've never. Only a few times in the past, when I've been like at rock bottom and scraping by to make ends meet, have I budgeted and said, okay, I can't afford this, I cannot afford this, and so on and so forth. But yeah, I've always kept a steady eye on my financials, looking at my bank account, seeing how much is in it, how much I need to divert for pay for this or that, or whatever the case may be. Now, it's kind of the same. Only because I know intrinsically what my financials are, and I know when I'm getting out of hand, when I'm oh, let's go buy some fast food. Like no, I try not to. Once every 2 weeks, is what I allow myself. Sometimes I'll get lazy, go once a week for a couple weeks, and I'm like, okay,
Hold back, pull back.
Yeah. So reel it in.
There you go.
But yeah, so technically, no, I do not budget, but I have allocated in my head where my finances need to go. If I ever found myself letting my expenses run away, you can be sure I would definitely, okay, let's plan it out. So, and I have, when I first got here to Hawaii, I did make a budget because it was so new. So coming to America from Japan, I was like stepping into a foreign country, even though it's my own.
Right.
Because I'd been gone for so long. So I was like, okay, I need to figure this out because this is crazy. So yeah, when I first got here, yeah, I did. Sure.
Do you think that sort of laid the foundation for, or I guess this is what I'm picking up, is that a lot of your budgeting is now, because it's so second nature, it's become sort of where your money needs to go, but maybe it's not on paper, but that's where it started. It started on paper, and then now you just sort of, your expenses are not really changing that much, and you're just sort of going through, and you know how much you have to go here and here and here type of thing.
Yeah, it's definitely second nature by now. I know what I'm getting out of my lane, and I know when I need to get back in my lane. So definitely, it's all up here now.
That's really good. So whenever you initially got here, and I'm gonna just pick up. We won't bring up your past Texas experience. We'd rather. but truthfully,
actually, I think that is a good story that we probably should.
Tell me.
Okay, so the first time I ever got involved into the stock market, I was 18 years old.
Here we go.
My stepdad got me into it, and I know if he ever listens to this podcast, he's going to be rolling his eyes and shaking his head. Sorry, but
we're sorry, Mr. Belote.
No, Mr. Carpenter.
Mr. Carpenter.
Okay, but yeah, so so he was telling me about the stock market and mutual funds and all that, and I was like, oh, okay, this sounds cool. This sounds great. And he's like, bring me $1,000, we'll invest it. I brought $1,000. I lost it all. And quickly, too. I mean, it was like weeks, and I was like, hey, so how's my account? He's like, yeah, it's not there anymore. So,
jeez.
Yeah. So, and at 18, still in high school, $1,000 is everything.
No.
Unless someone had a really nice job while they were in high school, $1,000 was everything. So I was like back to square one with nothing, scraping by. And
that was a nice animation, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. I've been trying to keep it lively for you so they don't go, oh my God, wake up. But yeah, so anyways, and from that day on, I swore I would never get into the stock market again because it's just a money pit, a bunch of sharks, and yeah. So I had a very ill view of the stock market for almost 2 decades.
Wow.
And that was a big hurdle for you to overcome.
It was.
So, but yeah, so that's how that started, and I very clear forever.
Well, that's good that we're going to get to that, because that actually sets up really nice for how this whole thing ends. So that's really nice. But I think whenever you what I want to jump into is how those initial hurdles that you had to overcome when you first got here. So you moved here from Japan. You started getting this whole budget thing. You started getting your finances underway. You started realizing that it was important. What were some of the initial hurdles that you sort of faced?
Oh my God. Like as far as like budgeting is concerned, or finances,
in certain terms of just your finances. So because a lot of my things that I bring up are more financial psychology and how you're thinking about it. So how did you approach, from a mental perspective, your finances and how you were going to control them, whether it be through budgeting or whether it be through your choice of how much you can afford for living, food, whatever? How did you come up with all that?
So,
and what hurdles did you experience, really?
Unfortunately, my first 11 months here, it was kind of like a nuclear bomb going off in terms of.
I have a friend.
Oh, really?
Lay down. We have our friend Ace here. All right, he's gonna hang out, so don't mind him. Right.
So my rent was so astronomical, so much higher. It was like 2.5, almost 2.8 times higher than what I was paying in Japan.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my god. I mean, I had a friend who lived here for 3 years prior to me arriving, and she told me how expensive it was, and I didn't quite believe her. But when I got here, and I went to the store and saw $8 for a gallon of milk, I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. So immediately from the start, I had to okay, I need to only buy what I need. And that's usually, and I still ask myself that question when I go to the store, do I need this or is this a want? If it goes into the want, then it can wait. So, but yeah, so I made an Excel sheet, spreadsheet is, as soon as I started I think it was my first month's worth of pay. And I said, okay, I got rent, I got cell phone, I got auto insurance, I've got gas, I've got food, and I just kind of, and what was left over was pennies.
Wow.
It was, so the whole first year that I was living here, I was scraping by, and I mean, it was. I still managed to save a little bit, but it was really, really tight.
Wow. That's tough, but I do have to ask, if now that you've experienced it, now that you've done it, was there anything that you learned that you took away from that sort of you still are using today?
Yeah, definitely the mentality of needs versus wants. I've kind of always been that way, but now it's just even more so. Looking at all the nice glittering things on the shelves, and before I'm an impulse buyer. If I see something I'm like that's a really good, oh yeah, I'll get that. Now I'm just like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. I still have to fight that impulse to go buy something because it's it's hardwired in. I don't know where I picked it up from, but yeah. So that's pretty much what I took away from all that is the fighting my impulses.
So you were a spender before?
No, I was never like a really heavy spender, but if the deal looks sweet enough to entice me, I'd be like, So I mean, before I moved here, I had a television I had for 10 years. There was no reason to upgrade until it started like actually going on the fritz and then time.
Wow. So I have to ask. So if you could go back to, we can use that time frame, or we can use prior time frame, prior to moving to Japan, prior to whenever you just an older or a younger you, right?
Okay.
Where, if I gave you $1,000, where would you put it besides your dad's mutual fund account?
Let's see.
What would you do
for savings? Or
no, I'm talking about you in that mindset though. What would you have done with it? Not in your mindset today, but in your mindset back then. What would you have done with $1,000?
I probably would have put it in a savings account.
Savings account.
Strictly because of how I was raised, the economical status that I had when I was very young. I mean, before I even knew what hardships were, there's something ingrained in me to save for a rainy day, and I try so very hard. Sometimes it seems like as soon as you start making headway of like your little nest egg, your rainy day fund, something comes up and it just kind of scoops a couple, grand or 100 off the top, and it's like, oh, we got to take care of this, and it's like,
yeah,
and, you got to start building it back up, and it seems like that's a repeating cycle of life all the time. So I think that if at any given time you would have given me $1,000, I probably would have put it.
So do you consider yourself to have come from a very wealthy upbringing?
No, I did not have an affluent upbringing. I wouldn't say poverty, but as close to as you can get to it without being poverty level.
Wow.
I mean, it was touch and go at times. Now, as an adult, hearing all the stories and knowing what I know, I'm like, oh crap, we were like almost lost the house a couple times, So, came from a big family in a small 900 square foot house. So, I mean, you learn to live on top of each other. You learn a lot of things that are,
right.
That mold you as a child into your upbringing. So Yeah.
Dang, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So now catch us up to today. So we've now been all across the country and now all across the world. Bring us back to today. Now you're in Hawaii. Um, you're obviously now a lot more in control of your finances. How sort of walk me through sort of where you're at financially in your journey today.
Okay, so as I stated before, the first 10 or 11 months I was scraping by, and I had to go, okay, where can I save money? Obviously, I need all of these things. Well, I guess technically you don't need the internet. You know, it feels like it's a necessity, but it's actually not. But I was like, okay, I'm not gonna get rid of internet. That's how I keep in contact with family across the globe. I need my cell phone so people can get, because I don't have a landline. So, you know, I started thinking, okay, where can I start saving money? And then I started looking into AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, seeing what they offered for what their monthly bill was. And for a while, I was with Verizon because they were the cheapest of the big corporations. And then I started looking at, you know, off the mainstream path, like Pure Talk USA. And then I actually saw a commercial for Spectrum Internet, and it's like, hey, if you got internet with us, we'll give you a cell phone, unlimited data for this amount a month. And I was like, oh, well, that's even cheaper than what I'm paying now, so I'm definitely going to move over there. So everything that I had, I found ways to cut costs while still maintaining all that I had.
Right.
If that, you know.
No, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And then slowly but surely, I started rebuilding that nest egg that was so severely depleted from moving across the globe to Hawaii to take the job. So moving is expensive. I came with 2 suitcases and a box, and that was it to sum up my life.
Jeez.
So yeah, I started really from nothing, and you know, that first week I only had a week to get my affairs in order, so I had to take what was offered. With the car I got, you know, the apartment I signed a deal for. I should have looked a little bit more for a deal on an apartment, because
Yes, you should have.
that was just,
That was a long year.
oh my god, it was terrible.
That was a long year.
My brother was like, the amount you're paying on rent, you could buy 2 houses here in Texas. I'm like, yeah, I know. Thank you for telling me.
Valid.
So, yeah, but yeah. So slowly but surely, I built up that nest egg, and right when I was able to start breathing a little bit easier, that's when I started noticing that you were talking about the stock market. And I was like, well, this guy's an idiot. You know,
Dumb guy, man.
Yeah, dumb guy.
Don't listen to him. I lost $1,000, right?
That's right. 20 years ago, or almost 20 years. So, but actually, that's when you started talking to me about it, and I started listening to you. Even if it seems like I'm not listening to you, I'm keeping my ear open.
Got to.
So, you know,
to everybody.
Working. So, and eventually you finagled and wrangled me into giving it a try. And at the time, I set aside $300, I think it was. And I said, okay, I can lose this $300 and it not kill me. But it was quite close to my max that I could afford to lose. So when I put that little nest egg in there, that was literally it, you know.
Right.
So put that in, and you know, we talked stocks, we researched companies, and at the time, I thought we were pretty savvy and smart, and in retrospect, we were lucky idiots. Not really, but you know, we were lucky. I got lucky several times, you know, with some of the stocks that I had chosen. That after that initial drop in, what was it, March 14th, somewhere. Some of those stocks that I invested in just shot through the roof because they were beer flu related. So, you know, like iBio. That was one I had like a 1,300% return on. I was like, oh my god, you know. So unfortunately, I didn't have enough money sank into it. So I mean, that one alone got me back my nest egg, but I didn't pull that nest egg out. I kept it there and used it to reinvest. And that's the big thing: is whatever earnings you get, you don't pull away from from that nest egg. I mean, sure, if I need to, I can pull out that money tomorrow and say, I've got to take care of this. But I don't. I just reinvest and reinvest, and hopefully the pool gets bigger and bigger.
Right.
So
No, I think that's good, and I think it's good for anybody who's watching or listening to understand that there's a lot of different trading or investing strategies out there, um, and I can speak for myself. I've been in the stock market since 2010. That um, it's a big difference in what you think you know when you really back up and you say, okay, I've been successful at this and this and this, but what do I really know? And I'm glad you brought that up because it was a learning moment for me too, and we'll talk about it here in just a second. But I think that it's huge that you were able to get back into something that was so off limits or so
taboo.
taboo to your life, but.
Detrimental to your financial health.
Yeah. So what was do you remember what was said that sort of was just that tipping point? It was like, okay, I'm willing to do this.
Well, I think you kind of just hit on the head right now, which was you've been doing it since 2010, and I don't know how much of your financial success came from the stock market. I just knew that it was a lot more than me, which was nothing.
Right.
So I was like, okay, he's obviously doing something right. And the one lesson that I learned from the mutual fund fiasco decades before was don't just dump your money in. So, and that's unfortunately what happened with me. So next time, you just got to trickle it in. But so yeah, for me, I think it was like, oh, I've been doing this for almost a decade by then, and I've had many more successes than failures, and I was like, oh, okay, all right. And then when you kind of told me your mentality of how you pick stocks, I was like, okay, so this is not a guessing game. This is an educated guess or guesstimate, and I think that's what really kind of did it for me.
Yeah, and we won't get into as much trading strategies on this, but I think that the big takeaway that I want to ensure people are taking away is that it doesn't have to be taboo to people. Like the stock market doesn't have to be. And what has now been the wake up call for where you now feel confident in the stock market?
I think it would have to be expanding my actual knowledge of how the market works, being able to. Well, I know you said you don't want to get into technicalities, but being able to understand what a candle is, what volume means, what this technical pattern means, and looking at the not just like for the current week, but for the past month, for the past 6 months, what's the trend? The trend is your friend, kind of thing. So even when we were investing and the educated decisions that we made in picking our stock, it's paltry compared to what I know now. And the one interesting thing is that we've both done our trainings, and we can speak to each other on a level that when other people in the office are talking about stocks, and I'm just like, I kind of look and I'm like, was I that ignorant once upon a time? And I'm not saying that they're dumb or anything, but they're just getting in too. And you try to help where you can. But I was like, wow, it really shows how far you've come in a short amount of time. I began, what was it, November of 2019 is when I started. So like right around that time frame. Yeah, I got in right before the big crash, so or the reset. So, but yeah, and luckily I rode through that pretty well. I wasn't seriously wounded or tied up with it.
So we obviously know by the title of this stream that last year you had 100 and whatever percent year-to-date return, right? Mm-hmm. So what do you think constituted to being able to pull that off? Because obviously you talked about some of your lack of knowledge in certain areas, some confidence building in there. How were you able to take all of the experiences you have with the stock market and still pull out a 100+ year-to-date return?
Hey, that's a loaded question. I'm not gonna lie. Early on, some of it was luck. I just happened to be in the right stock at the right time, and I got a 1,300% return in one day. So I think also early on it wasn't about greed. It's very hard to fight greed on no matter how much or how little it affects you. Greed is a very strong pull, and it takes tenacity to say no. I need to bail. I've made my profit, and I mean it'd be great if it ran, but I'm content with this to take my money and walk away. It's like when you're playing poker, you got to know when to fold them. Just walk away. And unfortunately, I don't know when to walk away from poker, so I just don't play poker.
Right.
So
that's a good reason not to play poker.
So, but yeah, so I would say fighting greed and gaining knowledge of how the stock market works and what to look for. And even though earlier I said the trend is your friend, I try not to follow the path of, well, everyone's doing this. Let's go. No. That's not good enough for me, because everyone over here could be morons.
Correct. 100% correct.
And so I try to find my own find my own path. Now, that being said, I know I bounce things off of you and vice versa. I'm like, hey, what do you think about this one? And what do you see? And I think it's very interesting. And I know we talked about this, but it's very interesting that now a lot of times we see the exact same thing. This is good, this is bad. But sometimes we look at something and I say one thing and you say the other, and I'm like, what are you talking about? But at the same time, you're like, what is he talking about?
That's correct.
So what I really want to do is find that disconnect between us where we're both, either I'm faulting, you're faulting, or we're both faulting, and find out what it is and correct it. Because if I can correct it, then my chances for success are that much higher.
That's right. No, that's good. And so with all that good, all the good things that happened in the past year for you with the growth of your account, obviously is great. That's what most people want, right? Mm-hmm. Most people were pulling last year. I think the average was for an average mutual fund was 12% with the COVID stuff. It was a little higher, but with all of that success, what do you think was some of the things that you really learned? What were some of those learning points along the way that you think people could take away?
That's a very long question. I mean, only what I've pretty much already said. Educate yourself. I thought I was educated when I first got into it. And that's far from the truth. I was an idiot that got lucky half the time. Some of the choices I made were solid companies, and but that's a dangerous mentality of, oh, this company will be around forever.
That's right.
No, it's not. Ford could go belly up, or Apple, or is it likely? Probably not, but I
don't know. Sears was doing pretty good, man,
and then it wasn't.
And then it wasn't.
Yeah.
So,
let's see what else. Learn to walk away. Don't let greed take over. Set your limits. Don't dump your money in. Trickle it in. And once I started seeing success, then I allowed myself to pull $50 a check, or $25 if I couldn't afford it, or this one time $100. Or when my tax return came in, I would take 20% of that and put it in that account. I wouldn't just go crazy, but I'd put it in my stock buying account. And then I started thinking about retirement, and that's a whole nother story.
Absolutely.
But the quick of it is that retirement didn't exist for me up until a few years ago. I never even gave it a thought. I mean, yeah, it's like I said, back burner. But I'm like, I've got time. And 20 years is not that long. It may seem long when you're 20 years old because it took a long time to get there, but
right.
Looking back 20 years ago, I'm like, dang, that seems like last week, and then, oh my God, I only got 20 more years. They say the longer you're alive, the faster the years go by, and I'm really starting to feel that and believe it. So I'm like, oh man, I gotta get on my retirement, and And I know we've had many conversations about that, and like, okay, so Roth or traditional, or what do you, so, but yeah, that was another thing that I kind of had to also pause on my individual account that I was growing and switch my focus to retirement, because I need to take care of myself later down the road, not just today.
That's right.
So
that's good. So as we wrap this up, I want the last piece is for you to give a last parting advice, just one sentence of you can just say, this is what I would tell my younger self, this is what I would tell my children, this is what I want to tell you. What would you tell anyone that listens to this or watches this about getting their finances in order?
One sentence.
One sentence, man.
I'm gonna have to think about that for a while.
No, you don't. You got it. You got it right there. It's right on the tip of your tongue.
No. I know what I want to say. I just can't say it in one sentence.
Then give me a couple of sentences.
Okay. I would say, I wouldn't say education is free, but education is everywhere. And kind of stealing from you, you can never go wrong investing in yourself. Part of that investigating is education. So, yeah, that's probably what I would tell myself. I definitely tell my kids that, but I would definitely tell my 18-year-old self, I know you hate studying, I know some things come easy, but if you really want to take care of yourself and your family, you've really got to educate yourself.
Agreed. So as we wrap it up, I want you to, if there's anything that you want to give a shout out to, or anything that you want to mention to the listeners on the stream, you can go ahead.
All right, so I'm an author. Unfortunately, Joe has to listen to me talk about writing all the time.
Right.
Like all the time. If we're not talking about stocks, we're talking about writing. So I've got a couple of books out that you can find them on Amazon. The Bearer of Secrets, it's a grimdark fantasy. There's The Demon's Fate, it's a military sci-fi. And I've also got The Dark Portal, it's a thriller novella. And I also got a website, if you want to check it out. It's www.outpostdire.com, and I write blogs there, and you can follow me on Twitter. I've also got reviews on Amazon and Goodreads. So,
hey, and we'll if you missed any of that, we'll put it all down in the description for this stream, and make sure that you go and check that out. And if you've got any kind of Amazon services, Kindle Unlimited, anything like that, just go in and look up one of the books, click them all in the link down there, and support Kyle. Get you some good knowledge, educating yourself.
Yeah, you can definitely read them for free if you got Kindle Unlimited. So just go ahead and download a copy and read to your heart's content.
There you go. Well, I appreciate it once again, man.
No problem.
And
thanks for having me.
Next time we'll get another one. This won't be the last.
We'll talk about retirement.
There you go.
All right.
So next time, peace. Y'all have a good one.